Let's go sunning, it's so good for you. Let's go sunning, neath the sky of blue. Greet the sun every
Hey, what's going on, guys? So look, as a lot of you know, I love talking about products that tend to fly under the conventional audiophile radar. And I love it because I feel like there's so many small companies out there that are building great products that never really get the attention and the respect that they deserve. Hence why I'm so excited to talk to you all about the Heed Abacus DAC. Now, some of you may also know I reviewed the matching integrated amplifier to this DAC, the Elixir, a little over a year ago, and I ended up loving it so much that I bought one for myself, which is something that I rarely do with review samples. So it'll be interesting to see how the Heed Abacus matches up not only to the Elixir, but to other products that I have on hand. So what we're going to do now is focus on the DAC. And like the Elixir, this DAC is both designed and made in Hungary. And like the Elixir, it carries the same price tag of $1,395 US, which, let's face it, in the world of high-end audio, that's not exactly expensive, but in the real world, it ain't exactly cheap either. But that's just a price you pay for something that's designed and made in the country of origin, especially in the EU. Now, when you get right down to it, this is a very simple piece. In fact, simplicity really embodies what Heed Audio is all about. They want to make sure that everything features short signal paths and that everything's easy to use and that attention is paid towards elements of design like the power supply, especially in items like the DAC. And on the front here, you'll see you have that slick, typical European fascia here. We have input buttons so you can go between your sources. And yeah, it's a very straightforward piece. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut, turn the power off, and then flip this unit around so you can see the back. All right, so looking at the back of the Abacus, you guys can tell that this is a pretty straightforward piece. In fact, we have a set of analog outputs. We have a coax in, a BNC in, two optical inputs, a USB input, a power switch, and an IEC plug. Now, it's important to note that this DAC uses the AKM AK4490 chipset, which is native DSD 128 capable. You can also achieve 32-bit playback via the USB input on this DAC. But most importantly, I want to go over what their design goals are with this DAC, because it's not to achieve neutrality, it's not to hit upon all the things that a lot of audiophiles listen for in terms of huge imaging and quick, tight bass and all that. Instead, it's about something that allows you to focus more on the music than on the gear that's reproducing it. Or to quote Heed Audio, they want something that grabs you by the heart, which leads me to my assessment on how this unit sounds and whether or not they achieve that goal. So let's get right to it. Alright, so when you get right down to it, the Abacus has such a straightforward way of reproducing sound that this review may end up being pretty short. In fact, what I want to do is I want to start off by telling you all who this DAC is not for. And who it's not for is going to be the audiophile who says, hey, I want the most neutral and transparent DAC that I can buy for this kind of money. I want something that'll pass the signal from point A to point B with as little coloration as possible. If that's you, then the Abacus is going to be a very easy pass. Likewise, if you're an audiophile who says, hey, I want huge imaging, I want the cleanest, tightest bass that I can possibly get, I want the cleanest mid-range, etc., then yeah, this DAC is going to be an easy pass because it has a distinct sound to it. And it's a distinct sound that, God, I hate to say it, but it really does fall within that cliched music lovers category. And it's a sound that some people are going to love and some people aren't. And basically who it's going to be for is for somebody who says, hey, look, I have this large digital library, but I really don't care for the digital sound too much. It's usually a little too dry for my taste. Well, that's exactly what the Abacus addresses, is there's going to be no dryness to the sound at all. In fact, everything is going to sound very full and have a density to it that a lot of other DACs at the same price point simply will not have. In fact, that leads me to the individual elements of the performance of the Abacus, because if you were to bring this home, this is basically what you can expect to hear. So first, let's start off with the treble. The treble is going to be on the ever so slightly forward side of neutral. There's going to be just a little bit of extra spice on top. And I really like this because it gives the music a bit of excitement. For example, when you're listening to electric guitar, it's not going to sound dull and smooth. There's going to be a little bit of bite there. When you're listening to somebody play the violin, there's going to be just a little bit of bite there and just a little bit of extra zip on there, which I actually really enjoy because in my experience, real live music, unamplified music, isn't super smooth. There's a little bit of grit to the sound, and that's exactly what the Abacus captures. Now, is it going to be the smoothest sound and most refined sound in the world? No, but again, it's more about paying respect to the musical event versus delivering what a lot of audiophiles listen for. And that leads me to the mid-range, which is definitely the star of the show. The mid-range has this sense of density to the sound that is very unusual for a DAC at this price point. Now, are there DACs that offer cleaner mid-range? Yes, this DAC definitely has a mid-range that airs to the warm side of neutral, but there's layers and depth within that mid-range, and there's this rich timbre to the sound that I think just is very enjoyable to listen to. And the same thing applies to the bass. Is the bass the deepest that you're going to hear in terms of just raw visceral presence? No. Is it the cleanest and quickest out there? No. But at the same time, there's a little bit of warmth there, and it seems almost just right. Not overdone, not underdone, and just has this very enjoyable character. And despite all of this, though, one of the things that the Abacus will do that is more associated with the typical audiophile piece is that it allows you to focus on individual elements occurring within the music. So if you have a complex piece of music playing, you'll be able to easily make out all of those individual things that are occurring within the music. But it does it in a way that doesn't distract you. Instead, it more complements the musical experience. So overall, this is going to be a very fun DAC to listen to. Obviously, though, it's not perfect, so let's quickly go over some of those imperfections before going to my final thoughts. All right, so now that I think about it, I already covered most of the major caveats already. I mean, is it the most refined sounding DAC for the money? No. Does it have the quickest and cleanest and most neutral mid-range? No. The same can be said for the bass, the same can be said for the imaging, but at the end of the day, that's not really what this piece is about. And that actually leads me to my final thoughts. All right, so when you get right down to it, the Abacus is going to be a niche piece because a lot of audiophiles, when they spend this kind of money, they want to hear their investment. They want to hear that huge imaging. They want to hear that tight, clean bass, and they want to feel like they're hearing new details that they've never heard before. And the Abacus isn't really going to deliver that. Instead, it's going to be for the person who says, you know what, all of that's nice, but I want something that will humanize my digital collection. I'm ready to get off the merry-go-round. I just want to go back to listening to music and enjoying music again. Now, I'm not going to go on camera here and say that this DAC sounds a lot like vinyl, because it doesn't. I'm not going to tell you that it revolutionizes digital listening for the money, because it doesn't. Instead, it's just a very enjoyable sounding piece for the money. And to that end, I think Heat Audio hit their goal directly on the head. And this is something that is easy to recommend for more of the music lover. As cliche as it is to say that, this really is going to be more of the music lover's piece than somebody who's chasing audio perfection. Anyways, guys, that's just my take on the Abacus DAC. As always, thanks for watching, and until next time, peace.